because in our deep history and everyone's history has this labor fallen on the very specific people that it's fallen on to get this done, to get this to happen. It also needs to be clarified that this is not it, that this is just one step, and that we will be here tomorrow in the library lobby at 1, and that we will be here every day, and that black bodies will be put in this institution, and brown bodies and trans bodies, and all these people, and they will need our support, and they will need us to be doing this work, and we will be needing to hold the institution accountable at all given moments, at every day, at every point.
Yes.
Woo! So I'm going to get off because I'm shaking, but I want to clarify that George is claiming that he needs to leave by 5:30, so we need to make sure that we're being really concise and getting our shit said, and you can say it as emotionally, as angrily, as passionately as you need to, but we need to also make sure we're making space for the people who need to be heard, and we need to be getting it done in an effective amount of time. Is that clear?
Yes. Yes.
So what's about to happen is a few of us went into a room with George and some of the administration to come up with some really concrete, important work that he needs to be held accountable to and the institution needs to be accountable to on a timely basis. George is going to clarify the points that he's made and that he's committed to, and y'all are going to get a chance afterwards to clarify, to make any, to voice any changes that you feel need to be made, and to voice any concerns you need to happen in this space. Does that feel good to everyone?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. If at any point you have any accessibility needs, you feel you can't be heard, you feel come up to me, come up to someone, we will make that shit happen. It has to happen in this space, okay? Right. Everyone good?
All right.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Janelle. Thank you all for coming. This is a beginning. It is not an end. The work is important, critical to the future of the college. And I want to outline what we discussed with a group of students about action items we could take. First and foremost, I want to state that there will be, as far as I know, no charges filed against any students involved in actions that occurred this morning. We will be conducting a major review and investigation of all that occurred, and we'll be reporting back to you, the campus community, about exactly what happened, why it happened, and what we intend to do about the incident. Not the incidents, excuse me, the actions that were taken, both students, staff, and faculty involved.
Officer O'Dell?
That's going to be part of the investigation and review. So the conversation that occurred earlier this afternoon in this room with many of our students present broke down into a series of concerns that you articulated, and those were the focus of discussion that occurred in a meeting a meeting that Jamil referred to with the vice presidents and the deans and others present. And I should say that in the room here are the provost, the vice provosts, the vice presidents, and a number of y'all, senior administrators. Please raise your hand that are here. They're all around the room. So everyone's listening. Okay. Here's what we came up with in terms of action items that we must undertake and we will undertake this afternoon. I'm speaking from a document that is a summary sheet. After today's meeting, I will prepare an all-campus communication to everyone that you'll receive virtually a list of these action items and as best we can the timeline by which we will undertake the work. It is critical work that we all must do, and it's critical work that we will do. First, student conduct code. From the moment I walked on campus, I began conversations about the student conduct code and how it works here at Evergreen. It needs to be improved. And what we agreed today to do is that as we are working on revisions of the student conduct code, we will employ 3 to 4 students who will participate in that work that will occur over the summer. They will be paid for their time, and their compensation will involve looking both at the content of the conduct code and the processes and steps that are entailed in how it is operated. There's great dissatisfaction among many students with the way the conduct code works, the way it's applied, and the way it's enforced. That will be the subject of concern. There will be no finalization of the changes until students, faculty, and staff have opportunities to consider those changes in the fall. It will be reviewed and vetted at that point so that people will have, the campus community will have an opportunity to have input in on the changes that were proposed and were implemented. It will be a living document. This is a document that will be posted online, and the progress we make over the course of the summer will be outlined, as well as the work in the fall online and on the Equity and Inclusion website page, so that students can keep up to date on what changes are underway, what we're looking at, and the work we're doing. Who will be involved in this work? The students will be involved, and I've asked the student group that we met with earlier today to identify, in conjunction with you, 3 to 4 students who are able to work this summer with staff on the revisions of the conduct code. Obviously, we want as many voices as we can in the fall to ensure that the conduct code is responsive to students' concerns of those students who feel targeted by the conduct code, as well as all students, such that it is indeed a student-centered document rather than a faculty or administration-centered document. The second area we talked about were academics. We talked at length with the provost and the deans about ways in which we can improve the quality of evaluations of faculty work by students and ensure that they're incorporated into evaluations of faculty on a regular basis. We are shooting for the integration of that into the collective bargaining agreement that we are now in place. I hope you all know that our faculty are all members of the United Faculty of Evergreen, the labor union with which we are negotiating the terms and working conditions that faculty undertake. So we have agreed, and we will of course raise the issue of improved and confidential student evaluations of faculty with the faculty union. It has to be worked with and built in conjunction with them. And as a consequence, I would ask, that as part of our commitment to working on this, that students would speak to the faculty union representatives as well. That seems to be an absolute necessity so that they hear from you about your concerns rather than hearing about your concerns from us. So I empower and encourage students to speak to the faculty union representatives who, do we have any union UFE representatives here today? Yes, not. Okay. Yes, I can give the names of the representatives so that you have access to those names. The third area is training for all faculty and staff and for police services specifically.
Annual training.
Thank you. I was about to get to that. Annual training. Then it would focus on the following kinds of issues. Engaging with students in a meaningful, constructive way. Involving students in the training rather than just as the objects of the training or the objects of their work. That it would be done by an outside expert, someone who would bring expertise in the area of training of staff and faculty as well as police. That it would focus singularly on anti-black racism, that's absolutely critical in the nature of this training, as well as other areas, including training in how to deal with sexual assault, Title IX, police brutality, disability and access issues, and specifically those where people feel targeted by law enforcement for whatever reasons. Finally, it also worked on the issue of the focus on training regarding working and collaborating with queer and trans students and individuals on campus so that they too have a voice in the training that occurs. The students asked that we request that the training be funded with private dollars, that is gifts to the college that would support the training rather than tuition dollars or state dollars. I will work very hard to do that. I cannot promise that because after all, private dollars are given by donors and donors have specific things they want to give to. But we will work on that and I'm committed to doing that.
Did you say this training is mandatory?
The training will be held and we will commit to having everyone trained. Mandatory is something
We want it
that
to be
I
Is it mandatory?
I
Is
know.
there anything that's going to happen if they don't go to the training? Because you already have trainings, and I've heard a lot about how those trainings work and
Sure.
don't work. So I just want to make sure that this is actually. So
No, the
is
question-
this just something you're saying, or I'm
Let
curious?
me respond. Thank you for asking that. The question is, will it be mandatory training? That becomes a working condition that is negotiated with the unions. So we would have to, I will request that it be mandatory, but the unions will have a response to that. Okay? Thank you.
Can I also ask that you promise us that you do research?
Can I ask that you promise us that you will, not promise, but you need to do research and have some, organizations that are committed to ending police brutality. You need to do research on those organizations and have them available to us in the next 2 weeks. And speak with them about how, like, start conversations about what you're doing in the summer.
Sure, I will do that. Thank you. Her comment was,
Oh, we heard it. This is Mike.
okay. All right.
By the way, if anyone else would like to talk,
Outside.
I will hand you the mic.
I'd like to get through the points. I want to get through the points.
Get through the points first.
We need to
Let me
get
get
to
through
the
the
point.
points, and then we'll do lots of back and forth. Okay. I mentioned earlier that there will be an investigation and review of the actions that transpired today. It will be an independent review. It will be a review that will not be done by the President's office. It will be focused on, as much as we can, an unbiased and absolutely fair review of all that occurred, and it will involve persons of color on the review team. Finally, with respect to undocumented students, I want everyone to know that our police services office and the college is doing everything we believe we can do to protect students who are undocumented and who have DACA status. We have an assurance from our police that they will not collaborate with ICE, and there will be no questions ever asked about any individual with whom they come into contact regarding their immigration status. So we are committed.
Accountability.
Let me finish, please. So those are the commitments we've made, the commitments that we agreed upon with the students with whom we met. And the next step is for me to, after we finish our conversation here, to summarize this in a communication to all of campus, and then also to include in that communication timelines for the work that we intend to do on each of these issues. So that is a first step. It is a beginning. This is a process. And this is a process that I'm grateful that you are raising the issues, that you are holding us accountable, and that you are expressing how you feel about being here. And I mean that. It's absolutely critical that you have that voice, and I want to affirm the fact that students are raising their voices and expressing their frustrations, their anger about the lived experience they have here on this campus. It must change. And I will commit all that I can to making a change. These are the initial actions we will take. I'm ready to take questions, ready to take a few questions, and constructive solutions to how we will proceed. What else?
Was that all the actions?
Yeah, that was what we listed.
Like this? Okay, I'm curious specifically why Brett hasn't been fired, and I understand that so please correct me if I'm wrong, but as the way that I understand, like tenure and being a part of a union and stuff, those apply in so much as you don't harass, like you would be fired for sexual harassment, for example. I'm curious why that doesn't seem to apply for racial harassment or for going against the policies of the school. And if he hasn't gone against the policy of the school, I'm curious why we don't have a policy against racially harassing faculty and students.
Woo!
Yeah, I would love to have a response to that.
First and foremost, I cannot comment on any personnel action. If you're general, so I will not comment on any faculty member's status and how the college has responded to them. It's inappropriate, it's unlawful. So that stated, I can tell you that we discussed the process by which complaints against faculty and staff are made. We discussed about making that process far more transparent to students from the very beginning, and indeed document that summarizes how students can convey their concerns, how they can the policies, the social contract expectations we have of fall quarter. And students are working on, we will be help us craft and shape most we can ask him to talk about how we respond to complaints against faculty But I also want to give time to other questions.
Right now. But that supports you to step in the right direction, to have workshops or training. You see Donald Trump's salute to white supremacy. Does empower racists beyond just trainings and meetings and be actively talked about.
I'm open. Any or all of these issues can be raised, and I'm very open to creating them. So, yeah, however we do it, I'm open to your suggestions on that. Well, we do have a complaint process, but we got to make it better, and we got to give people an opportunity to do what's happening right here, right now.
I have a solution. I have a proposed solution for something that you can do right now, and that is to disavow white supremacy. Like, you make promises, like at the institution you make promises, but this is an institution on first indigenous land. Like, every single thing about this institution is a testament to white supremacy. So if we don't actively disavow, as the president, there's a lot of things you can't do, but something that you can do as the figurehead of the school is actively lead, disavowing and saying that that's not there. There's nothing that you can say to console us, to make us feel safer, if this place is welcome and embracing the people who want us dead.
Right.
Woo!
Thank you. And I will say right now, I'm very concerned that some of you have expressed the fact that you have been threatened for even being here, for articulating these views, and I will do everything in my power to ensure that you are safe. Recognizing that I can't protect everyone, and that I will disavow all white supremacy.
You made this promise last year.
And I'm working really hard on it, Nick, and it's a slow process. And I'm very disappointed with the actions, how long it's taken for this college to change. I'm working as hard as I can. Yes, I am. Okay, let's go on. More suggestions.
I have a question about that.
Yes, please.
So, considering that you sent out an email inviting all of the wicked violence of whiteness to once again violate us, hurt us, damage black bodies in whichever way they want to, what are you doing right now to protect us?
I'm listening to you. I'm taking your recommendations. I'm working with
That's not how you protect somebody. That's not what you do. Guess what? What y'all do when white people are in danger is y'all call Olivia Police Department to campus. That's what y'all do. Y'all do that to protect you. So what are you doing to protect us? What are you doing to protect people who you don't even want here in the first place? That's what college is for. You know that's what college is for. Higher education was not for black and brown people. So the fact that you sent out an email inviting us to once again be put in danger and signed your signature on the end, what are you going to do? Right now, I don't care about a plan. I'm talking about action. Because if it was your kids, you would be doing hell and high water. Woo!
What I can commit to America is doing what I can commit to, what I will do the moment I walk out of this room, is I will go to work on this project. I will go to work on ensuring that our police, our staff, our faculty are as well trained and as anti-black, anti-violence. own shit. My own racism.
Okay.
There you go.
And I am a work in progress. Oh, really?
Let's have some more comments and suggestions about actions you can take.
Okay, so earlier, George, when we were in our little powwow meeting with lukewarm water, I had brought up to you the language in talking about the events that happen on campus, especially in emails that you send out to the students, and how right now they're kind of called just incidents and things that happen. And I suggested that we start calling them what they are, which is hate crimes, even when it is. And you said that you needed to look into what the definition of a hate crime was, and dictionary.com says that a hate crime is a crime motivated by racial, sexual, or other prejudice, typically one involving violence. And from what I've heard went down this morning when a happy-go-lucky police officer plowed through white students in an effort to get to students of color, I feel like that's a hate crime. That's a motivation. Because of union things, you can't really make training for these things mandatory. If you can't do that, I would suggest that you take under heavy consideration those that oppose the training and decide not to take a part in it. That should be, their names should be noted and should be told.
Just like in terms of like that comment right there, like.
Recognize and reflect. Who is it that you actually want recognizing the school? Do you want folks who don't want to be a part of mandatory training about racial, sexual, ableist, bias, all those things? All right, who's next?
I want to respond.
Michael's been waiting.
Can we get a response?
We need more.
Could we,
Sorry, did you have something to say?
I'm here to listen. Go ahead.
How about instead of more questions and suggestions, how about a process of consent?
Tell me what that means to you.
It means when you say, do you want to repeat what you said about the student code of conduct, what your point on that was?
The point is it needs to be revised, it needs to be worked, it needs student input in the revisions, it needs to be responsive to students, their issues, their concerns with the process, both the content of the conduct code and the process and steps we take.
How about instead of student input, you have student consent in the student codes of conduct that you are changing in the last 3 weeks of school and creating. How about instead of forums and in this inherently patriarchal and disproportionate relationship where you just listen to us and keep having forums and input sessions, and instead we have agency over our codes, the codes. No revisions to the student code of conduct without democratic student consent. So what I'm suggesting is a student ordinance that has veto power over the student code of conduct that doesn't just get to give input on the codes that you created over the last 2 weeks in your offices typing while we were experiencing overt acts of violence and racism. You were responding by making new codes.
Let me clarify.
So I can clarify. You don't have to clarify. So this 37-page document that was released with the signature of every single student affairs staff person and with 2 attorney general signatures was covered in declarative sentences about how fair and impartial and specific and benevolent it was, and it also included very clear times for forums and a form that you could fill out if you had any concerns. And this all in the last 3 weeks of school, where you expect us to like give our consents to this 37-page document, and I cut through that 37-page document. I just thought I should make some of it transparent. So the clause that says obstructive or disruptive conduct, and this is cutting through a lot of clauses within the clause. It says conduct that interferes with, impedes, or otherwise unreasonably hinders any activity that is authorized to occur on college property, whether or not.
Are you listening?
Why aren't you listening?
I was asking you a question. I wasn't sure.
Well, you should be listening.
Okay, I can start over.
Right.
Start over.
Go ahead.
It's one sentence. The conduct that interferes with or impedes or otherwise unreasonably hinders any activity that is authorized to occur on college property, whether or not actually conducted or sponsored by the college, is considered disruptive and obstructive conduct punishable by a disciplinary board. Mm-hmm. So this is public property, and that means that the people who the pro-life people who stand with pictures of dead babies are sanctioned to be on our campus, and it means that anything that we do is criminalizable, and this is in a context of weeks of mounting and nonstop anti-Black violence. So, and this is also in response to a trial that we haven't talked about. All right. I'm going to let other folks talk about that. There's plenty of people who can, but it pointed out some contradictions in what you wanted to criminalize us for versus what you could. So you changed the codes.
We are.
And so, all right.
But these are your intentions, though. It's still an issue.
Right.
Well, there's still right now we're in the fall. It's an issue.
Should we clarify that no decisions can be made without consent? But we're doing that next year, though, right? Is that
No, I'm more than willing to create a board that looks at it and makes comments. I don't know what the state law requires on me and how students can be involved. I'm more than willing to work on it.
State law, you the president.
The president has very few authorities over the
I'm
state
just
law.
saying, how don't you know the law? Like, you running the school, you keep telling me you don't know this, you don't know that, you don't have that much power to do this.
Right. Sounds like you got a lot of work to do in your office.
I do.
All I'm saying is, that sounds like a violation of constitutional rights. Does anyone here know a constitutional rights lawyer? Anyone? Can we have some hands? Anyone know some
Yeah, you
lawyers
guys seem like
that specialize in constitutional rights violations? That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Thank you.
I feel like I have been always an impassioned speaker, and I always take a lot of space, and I definitely recognize that. But my concern has never been addressed and discussed. About 4 weeks ago, I went to University of Washington campus and saw what they have for the multicultural center. They have 30,000 square feet. Oregon State University, I talked to one of my friends I met at Power of One conference. Combined together, they probably have around 15,000 square feet, which, by the way, includes largely different buildings for different cultural centers.
Right.
Right? I recognize that that's not possible here, but it probably is. But right now, we currently, with my estimation, have about 1,500 square feet. when we should have at least 2,600 square feet if we were going to go by UW standard, and that does not include the Queer Center. Which 1,500 square feet, for y'all to know, is those 4 columns in the near the back of the room, these 2 columns here, and those 2 columns in the front. That is literally how large our diversity center is, really.
Wait, I missed. I don't know where you're doing.
So what I'm asking for is some commitment that we will see expansion of equity and diversity resources on campus for students. That includes windows, that includes real staff, full staff members. I don't want to go to the student activities board anymore. I don't want to have to go to the executive fund anymore. That shouldn't be happening. We, as a group of students who are identified as people of color, as queer, whatever that marginalized student is, should be the ones in control of those funds.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
That's it.
Over here would like to ask a question or something? You?
Hi. So from what I understand about the hiring process at Evergreen is that it's super heavily vetted, and it's like a long process, and sometimes the hiring committee comes back and they're like, we can't hire anybody at all. I'm wondering why racial sensitivity isn't part of that vetting process, why you can't avoid having teachers who come to the school and then don't want to participate in the annual sensitivity training.
Well, I'm trying to think, you're talking about faculty hiring?
Yeah, faculty hiring.
I think what I would prefer, and you're raising a very valid point, okay, I'm not going to defend it. Every faculty member who comes to Evergreen, before they even walk into a classroom, should have that training.
Yeah.
What we are committed to doing, what we will do is based on the comments that I made earlier, is that every faculty, every staff member will have that training of a variety of sorts, all focused on anti-bias and particularly anti-black racism.
But how will you make teachers go if once they're hired, you can't tell them to go, you can't force them to go. It should happen before they get hired.
No, it should happen before they walk on campus. We can't train people that we don't employ.
Right, but you have a really heavy vetting process where you have them give lectures and things.
And so let me just take one more step with this. We can make training mandatory in response to your concern, but we have to do it in conjunction with the union. I'm committed to going to the union, as are the senior staff, and saying, this is what we want. See what the union comes back with. It would be very important for y'all to communicate with the faculty union representatives. And I will get names to you. I already said that. I can get the names to them. I don't know whether they're not here. I don't know whether they're not.
Are they on the way?
I don't know.
We call them now.
Let's go on.
No.
Where's the cop? Where's the cop that dived through the white students to get to people of color?
Where's Timothy O'Dowd?
Why isn't he here?
He will be part of the review and investigation of the incidents that occurred today, that transpired today. This is not the place to conduct a review.
This is the most people we've ever had at
I know, it's good. I'm glad.
Stacy, where you at?
Make it a meme. Make it a meme. Hashtag it.
Where's Stacy? Where's Kelly? Stacy!
restroom with questions?
Okay. Y'all. We need to. Just a reminder, we need to recenter women and femme voices in this space, okay? None of y'all long-winded ass men saying a bunch of shit.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Here she goes, y'all.
Can I go? Do I go first?
We want to hear Stacy.
Does somebody have a question or?
You have nothing to say.
No, you should start off with a statement if you got one.
My question, y'all hear me? No. This shit ain't working.
You
My question is, we were asked during the boardroom meeting you had, what you're specifically going to do about Wendy's email and the fact that that made it so like that the campus climate is so hostile towards Black folks, and like now there's like violence and like police have been called multiple times on Black bodies and on Black people. And today.
And your officer Odell said today that he doesn't believe racism exists on this campus. And he's like,
yeah.
I can speak to why we responded the way we did today.
We know why you responded the way you did.
Racism!
The call that I received today was that there was a faculty member that was trapped by several students.
Look at the video! Let her say the bullshit and then we'll address it.
So I'm telling you what I knew at the time. I was called and I was told that there was a faculty member that was trapped in their room. And that, but we weren't in the room. So we did not know what the circumstances were. There was 2 officers that were working, myself and another officer, and we responded to the area to see if that was actually what was going on. The information that we had was that this person was in danger and were trapped and were not able to leave the room. So when we got there, there was a very large number of students that were there.
Outside!
Where?
Outside! You were not by the classroom.
We were nowhere near it. They asked us where the classroom was.
You didn't know.
She asked us where the classroom was. I'm serious.
But hold on, please let her finish, because I wasn't there to hear it. I would like to hear her side of the story, okay? I'm gonna hear you guys too.
So the information that I had was that it was happening where we responded to, and that was SEM 2 in the D building. And so when we responded, we saw a very large group of people, students, that were blocking the doorway and standing in the hallway. At that point, we did not know what was happening inside where the faculty member was, and we were concerned about their safety. We did not know what the circumstances were. So we tried asking several students. We tried speaking to several students. I tried to ask several students and just try to ask them what was going on.
So you responded. Hold on. Let her finish the lie. Let her finish.
Yo, we know what happened. They're just saying some bullshit. Let them say the bullshit and then we'll call it out.
Well, if you already have your mind made up.
Shut up!
No, we were there. You need a you have me?
Why don't you excuse yourself?
Okay.
We've been up.
Okay, let's not censor it.
All right, Fiona, get the fuck out.
Okay, Stacey, please finish what you were going to say.
So at the time, we responded with the information that we had. A lot of times in law enforcement, we don't have all the information when somebody calls 911 or when somebody calls us. So we respond and we ask people for what's going on, and we did try that. The students did not want to talk back to us. They didn't want to answer questions. Officer Odell did try going through the crowd so that he could reach.
Oh, he smashed through it.
Just let her finish so we can just
I
explain.
ended up pulling him back out so that we could try to figure out and talk. to students about what happened. The students were not responding to us, or would not tell us what was going on. And so at that point, we did not know if we had a faculty member that was being trapped or not being allowed to leave a room. And that's what our concern was.
Questions?
Stacey, I have a question. So, when you first got this job, didn't you say you were going to try to make a policy for police services to communicate with students and make a community? So how come Officer Odell was throwing students out of the way and shoving them and pushing them out of the way to get to only PLC students? What was up with that? He didn't even try to stop and ask, hey, what's going on here? Why is there so many people? He just proceeded to run towards us like he was in fucking football and push us out the way.
And he said, I don't care.
And yeah,
We were walking away from Sim.
And you just said
Down.
you just said that you had to pull him back.
Right.
I did pull him back.
You had to pull him back because he was out of control.
So the investigation that's happening, we did it. Did we do it? Is it done? Did we do it? I think we did it. Woo! That's done.
Not have to be a question and answering session because they're not in charge. Also, I just want to remind everybody that they're here to be answering our demands. And Wendy Interest, who's always silent at every single one of these meetings, is the head of student affairs. She's the head of parking services, police services, the CRC, SAS, and yet she's never here. And yet she still has a job. And yet she never addresses any concerns. And yet this is still just a question and answering session, but y'all are not answering any demands.
My question was never answered.
We've been complaining about parking services and the rise in what is it, 70% of our students are low income and you are charging $20 for a goddamn parking fine? There's so many things here that need to be said that y'all need to answer to today. And I'm gonna just leave it at that because I got some other words that I'm so done.